Hello friends, today's topic is how can India surpass or overtake China in the economic development. My lesson plan includes why is it in the news, the economy of India and China between 1990 to 2023, how China surpassed India during these periods, what were strategies adopted by China in its economic development, what are ways out so that India can surpass China in near future and become a superpower. And finally, conclusion. Friends, as you know that the finance minister presented the budget for 2025-26 and it comprised an expenditure totaling 50.65 lakh crore rupees. The total capital expenditure included 11.21 lakh crore rupees, while the revenue expenditure comprised 39.44 lakh crore rupees. Friends, as you know that revenue expenditure is meant for the running of the government, for the day-to-day expenditure of the government. It means it includes salaries, pensions of the government employees, subsidies to farmers and weaker sections of the society, interest payments on loans taken by the government, and other miscellaneous expenses. So revenue expenditure doesn't create assets, while the capital expenditure creates assets in the form of infrastructures like roads, ports, airports. Government was forced to give concession to the middle class by raising the threshold of personal income tax to 12 lakh rupees, whereby no individual earning annually 12 lakh rupees would be under the bracket of income tax. Similarly, the salaried class got 75,000 standard deduction. This means that those salaried class who earn annually 12,75,000 rupees will not come under personal income tax. By these concessions, the government lost 1 lakh crore rupees annually. Friends, why the finance minister was compelled to give concessions to middle class or salaried class who comprise more than 3 million? Because there was no rise in wages commensurate with the rise in inflation. Secondly, the businesses were not investing money in the economy as was desired from them. So there was a lesser demand in the economy, and that's why the government gave concession to the middle class to increase the demand in the economy. Friends, as you know that there are 4 sources to create demand in the economy. These are private investments, secondly private consumption, thirdly the government expenditure on consumption and investment, and fourthly the net exports. I mean the difference between the export and imports, which is called net export. Friends, as you know that investment has more multiplier effect than the consumption. For example, if you invest 100 rupees as capital expenditure, you may get 125 rupees because it will create job opportunities to workers who are making roads or those who are involved in the construction of roads or other infrastructure. But the same thing cannot be said about consumption. It is true that when the income increases, there is also an increase in consumption. But it cannot be said that the rise in the consumption would automatically give rise to the income. So consumption has a weak multiplier effect than investment in the economy. That's why China since 1980s laid emphasis upon investment rather than on consumption. As you know that in 2023, the consumption rate in India was more than 60% compared with Chinese 39%. Now I switch over to the point as to what were the status of the Chinese and Indian economies between 1960 to 2023. Friends, according to the estimates of World Bank, GDP of China was 59 billion American dollar against 56 billion dollar for India, and so there was only a gap of 3 billion dollar. In 2023, the Chinese GDP increased to 17 trillion American dollar, whereas Indian GDP far lagged behind to 3.50 trillion American dollar. Between 1960 to 1980, the per capita income of India was more than that of China. For example, according to World Bank, it was 271 American dollar for India and 194 American dollar for China. In 2025, Indian economy is to increase or rise by 6.5%, and in a single year there would be an addition of 383 billion American dollar in the Indian economy, while there will be lesser growth of GDP in China at the rate of 4.5%. But in spite of the low growth, the Chinese economy would add 1.26 trillion American dollar because of sheer size of its economy. It is estimated by IMF that by 2029, the Chinese GDP would cross $24.6 trillion, while Indian GDP would cross $6.3 trillion. And so there would be a gap of 4 times. At the moment, the per capita income of China is 12,614 American dollar against 2,481 American dollar for average Indians. So now the question arises as to why China surged ahead India. Because in per capita income, the Chinese per capita is almost 5 times bigger than that of India in nominal terms, and if in PPP terms, I mean purchasing power parity, the Chinese per capita is 2.4 times bigger than that of India. And I have already told you that by 2029, the size of the Chinese economy would be almost 5 times greater than India. So now question arises, why China surged so much ahead of India? What were the reasons that China jumped so much against the Indian economy when their size were almost equal in 1980s? Friends, as you know that China came under communist rule in 1949, and after it patterned its economy on the Soviet model, laid a stress upon heavy industries and collectivization of agriculture. India became independent in 1947, and it embarked upon the path of mixed economy, whereby both public sector and private sector would exist, but public sector would achieve the commanding heights of the economy. So more reliance was given upon the growth and development of public sector in the economy. The economy was so much regulated that license, permit, quota, Raj pervaded throughout the economy of India and stifled the growth of economy. So much so that by 1980s, most of the public sector undertakings started incurring losses. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping opened the Chinese economy, whereby 2 economic systems would operate in one country. He opened Chinese economy for market, and so socialist economy of China was converted into socialist market economy. Huge investment in the form of foreign direct investment came into China, and from 1% share it increased to 18% share in the total investment in China. I mean, the share of FDI reached to 18% in the Chinese economy. By 1994, the quantum of FDI was to the tune of 100 billion American dollar. This huge investment led to the opening of factories on large scale, transfer of technology from foreign country to China, and interlinking Chinese market with the global market. The economic liberalization boosted growth, and there was a 19% increase in export year on year from 1981 to 1994. Friends, strong exports led to the increase in the productivity of goods and services. It spurred the growth of domestic industries in China. The higher productivity further led to the increased market reforms, which in turn led to better economic performance of Chinese economy in the coming years. And so this was visible in the agricultural sector, in the industrial sector. China built a strong infrastructure like ports, roads, airports. Similarly, the productivity of rice, wheat, pulses, oilseeds, cotton, sugar cane, all have higher productivity than India, in spite of the fact that India started green revolution in 1960s. For example, the yield per hectare for rice was 7.15 tons for China against India's 4.12 tons per hectare. Similarly, in wheat, the productivity was 5.91 tons per hectare against India's 3.56 tons per hectare. In cotton, it was 2154 kgs per hectare in China compared to India's 499 kg per hectare of cotton. So there is a huge gap between the productivity of China and India. The new economic policy initiated by Deng Xiaoping decollectivized agriculture, whereby the farmers were now free to sell their agricultural produce in the market. This led to the increase in the productivity of agricultural sectors. Special economic zones were created to boost exports. These zones were provided with tax breaks, deregulation, better infrastructure, and huge foreign direct investment. India started opening its economy in 1991 by adopting the policy of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Custom duties were reduced from 80% to 25% in order to facilitate foreign goods and services and foreign direct investment. While export-led growth made China the factory of the world, India could not catch up because of the bureaucratic hurdles, coalition governments pulling in different directions, issues of land acquisitions. Government of India launched Make in India by providing production-linked initiatives. But in spite of the best efforts of the government, India could not increase its manufacturing industries, and that's why in the budget of 2025-26, National Mission for Manufacturing is to be launched to increase the share of manufacturing from 17% to 25% in the GDP. Friends, as you know that the manufacturing industries have the capacity to boost exports, to raise the standard of living, to absorb the additional labor force employed in agriculture. In spite of the best efforts of the government, India could not receive or attract as much foreign direct investment as China could be able to do so. The volume of FDI is 4 times larger in China when compared with India. In 2023, the saving rates to GDP was 44.3% for China, but for India it was 30.3%. The huge savings led to the investment in businesses, infrastructure, industries and agriculture, and thus boosted exports of China to other foreign countries. The infrastructure in India is also not so much developed as it is in China, thereby making logistics more costly in India. The abrupt rise in the per capita income of China was due to the huge investment in infrastructure and for asset creation. For example, in 2014, the investment rate rose to 45% in China against India's 31.3%. Similarly, in 2023, the investment rate was 42.3% for China and 30.8% for India to the GDP. In contrast, in 2023, the consumption as share of GDP was 60.3% for India against Chinese 39.1%. This is because the shares of government in investment and consumption are relatively low. Moreover, India has had always an adverse balance of trade, and so the imports have been more than exports, thereby causing imports costlier, and so these reduced demands in the economy. Thus we see that Indian economy is driven by consumption, but we must note that economic growth led by consumption is always slower, and moreover it leads to income inequalities and joblessness in the economy. According to ILO, the labor participation rate in China was almost 73% against India's 50%. This was because of the fact that in India the participation of women decreased to 24%, which is very low when we compared with South Korea, China, Japan, Singapore. It should be noted that while India has always an adverse trade, unfavorable balance of trade, whereby export is exceeded by imports. On the other hand, China has always surplus trade. It means that China exports more than it imports. This creates more demand in the Chinese economy rather than in Indian economy. Thus, the twin deficits of current account and fiscal makes imports costlier, thereby weakening the value of rupees and creates less demand in the Indian economy. Now I switch over to the point as to what are the ways out for India to excel China. Number 1, to increase investment in the economy. Number 2, it should reduce the rate of consumption, boost exports, so that adverse balance of payment is reduced. India should export more than should imports, like China. Enhance female labor participation rate, as it happens in the case of South Korea, Japan, China and Singapore. The present level of female participation rate in the labor force is very minimum. It is necessary to generate employment by boosting manufacturing sector. Friends, as you know that in our country the share of agriculture is around 18%, while manufacturing it is around 17%, construction 9% and 55% in services. A time has come that the share of agriculture should be reduced from 18% to 9%, like China, where the share of agriculture in the total GDP in China is only 7%. The additional force implied in agriculture should be absorbed by manufacturing sector. It must be noted that it is only manufacturing sector which can absorb both semi-skilled and skilled manpower in manufacturing. This cannot happen in services sector, where only a skilled manpower is required. There is need to strengthening infrastructure to reduce the cost of logistics. We must foster regional as well as international cooperation to boost our exports by making free trade agreements with other countries of the world. So there is a need to reduce our dependence upon the US in the wake of the reciprocal tariffs started by the US recently. Since US is the largest trading partner of India, there is a need to reduce India's dependence upon the US. We must also emphasize upon skilling and educational development healthcare facilities. It is necessary for the government to encourage private businesses to invest more in the Indian economy, because in recent time they are earning more profits but investing less in the economy. Moreover, wages of the workers are not increasing. Now I conclude that India can surpass or overtake China if it harnesses the cheap labor force of India, the income of the rising middle class, transfer of technology from foreign countries, improves domestic institutional investments, increases wages of laborers, enhances the competitiveness of goods and services in the foreign market in order to boost our exports. To sum up, it is a huge investment rather than consumption which will make India superpower and may overtake China in near future. Friends, if you like this video, please share and subscribe my channel AJIS Academy Indore. Your feedback will be very much valuable to me. Thank you very much.